Hello everyone and welcome to my corner of the world. Today's card is an any occasion card. I think just a simple hello on there makes it useful for, you could even send it for a birthday, just sort of a thinking of you as an inspirational just because card. So I've featured it with some of the designer series paper, so that's making most of the hard work of creating this card. But to give it a little bit of extra, I've brought a technique here where I have embossed the card and then I've highlighted the embossed side so that it stands out a little more. And so that's the main purpose of today's video, is to share that particular technique and how it all fits into my card here. Now, my designer series paper is called Rustic Harvest, and it is in the July to December mini catalogue for 2022, and it is exactly what it says. It's full of things like pumpkins and gourds. We've got oak leaves here, and then if you're not into the pumpkins, we've got some nice diagonal stripes here, and then some dotty lines with leaves. So I think also some of these will actually make some really good guy cards with the black and white and the more autumnal colours. So the one I'm working with is this sheet of paper. Now, as you can see, it's got two sections of flowers. I think they're chrysanthemums, maybe they're dahlias, I'm not quite sure, but either way. And so it's not a piece of paper that you could just sort of cut up into little bits and have plenty, to be able to use it on cards as a background as such. But what I have done is I've cut it in half. So I cut it down. Here's my piece that I'm going to be using today. So I've cut it down at the 6-inch mark, right across the middle, and then that left me with the strips. And then to make it go a nice long way, I cut this into 4 pieces, and these measure 3, so that means I got 4 pieces out of each side, so I got eight pieces per sheet of paper, so it goes a nice long way. Well, 6 inches was a bit too long for my card base. So what I then did was I trimmed a quarter of an inch off each side, off each sort of end, as it were. So it's ended up at 5 1/4 by 3 inches. And then, because I didn't want to waste those 1/4 of an inch strips, I've got a few left here. You can see that there's the black. I actually added it to the lining of my card here, just to give it a little bit of a feature. And I just stuck it down with some multi-purpose liquid glue. So I haven't actually wasted a single piece of my paper. So that will attach onto there in due course, and then that piece will go inside here. Now, I used my paper to choose my colours, and so this is Mossy Meadow, so that's my base, and then I've chosen this, which is Merry Merlot, which picked out this colour here. I could have used the So Saffron. I could equally have used Cajun Craze. It's just that I chose Merry Merlot. Now, I have already embossed this piece of card, and I've used the Leaf Fall 3D embossing folder, and this is it. Now it's one of the thicker ones, so it does give a really nice deep impression on there, and that's what we want for the technique that I'm going to share with you. So I'm going to get out one of my silicone mats. This will stop me getting ink on my workstation. And I've got some Whisper White ink. Now this is craft ink. Now most of our inks are what we call classic, and they're sort of lighter weight inks. This craft ink is quite thick, and it is perfect for the job. Now I've got a piece of sponge. You could equally use a sponge dauber, and I'm just going to add some ink to my piece of sponge, and I'm going to very lightly sort of swish it over my piece of card that's been embossed. I'm not pressing heavily because I don't want it to go on the flat part. I want it to be on the raised part. So I'm just, as I say, just smooshing it across, and you can do it lightly to start with. You can always go back and put a bit more on. So can you see how, if I compare it to the before, it actually really made the impression on the card really pop. And this one down here is looking a wincy bit sad, so I'm just going to give him a little bit of extra. But you can see I'm just sort of making sort of a swishy swiping sort of motion, and I will get some ink on the bottom of, you know, on the flat part of the card, but to me it doesn't matter because most of it is being picked up by the raised parts. And that is as easy as that, but it gives you yet another technique for your embossing folders. So now I'm just going to bring my card together and share with you the different embellishments I chose to use. So a little adhesive allows me to just there we go, pop that there. And now I'm going to be putting down my inked piece with my piece of designer series paper. Now I think because this bit here hasn't really got much of an impression on it, but this bit is down here, I'm going to put it this way round because this will just cover that up. So I just want to make sure that my two pieces are the same length. Sometimes when you cut them, they're just marginally just tiny weeny bit out, and I can just see that that is a tiny bit out. So I'm going to go and get my cutting tool, and I'm just going to pop, it doesn't really matter which end I take it from, but I'm just going to take the tiniest whisker off of that side. And now we're just going to, would help if I put it the right way around. So let's just try again. Ooh, look at that, perfect. So that was worth just sorting that bit out. Now I'm going to lie this piece down first. So this is my embossed and inked Merry Merlot piece. And I'm going to position it so that I get my border. It's not showing up terribly well with these colours. I perhaps should have chosen crushed curry there, but hey. So you can see I've got my borders there. So next I'm going to lay this one down, and it is going to cross over there, but that's fine. I'm going to pop that a little adhesive on here. And I'm going to make sure that it lines up over here first, and then I'm going to slide it across so that I get the same margin that side as I did here. And the beauty of using the liquid adhesive is I can just use my thumbs with a little bit of pressure, and I just sort of smoosh that up so everything lined up. Now I have another particular favourite in the annual catalogue, and that is this gorgeous distressed gold specialty paper, and I've used it on quite a few of my projects, and it's a really good deal. You get two 12 by 12 sheets. I think it's for $5, and it goes an awfully long way, particularly when you only use a tiny bit at a time. So I've cut this piece that is like 5 1/4, and it's 1/4 inch wide, and I just want it to just go and cover up that join. So again, I'm going to put a tiny weeny little trail of adhesive on my piece of paper, and rather than stick it half on the card and half on the decorative paper, I am just going to line it up so that it sits on the decorative paper. And I'm just going to slide it back a tiny piece. Can you see what I mean about the usefulness of how that liquid glue can slide? So there's my card, and I think the gold just gives it a little bit more of a pop. Now, it needed a bit more, and I needed to bring this butterfly out. So I had this designer tags die set, and it's got tags in it, as you would expect, but it also got a couple of extra pieces, well, three actually. There's like a little stem of flowers, there's this lovely rose, and then there's this butterfly. So I cut myself a butterfly, and I did a white one to sort of blend in or to tone in with that. And I also did one in the distressed gold as well. Both of these cards cut beautifully with these tags. Now the other thing I did was to create my greeting, and I used the tag, one of the tag dies. This little one with a lovely little flower in there was the one I chose to use. Now they're quite small, and so I used this technique with my Stamparatus. And I'm sure I've shown you this before, but what I did was, okay, I've got my Hello stamp, which is from the Ranunculus Romance stamp set, and I've used this on quite a few cards that I actually have shared with you. And I stamped it onto a piece of paper. I popped it on my Stamparatus, popped it on the piece, and I stamped it like that. Then I used the die to cut out a sort of a gauge, a template. Okay, and then I positioned my template over the hello. You can see I need to make sure that it doesn't crash into the little hole for the top of the tag and the decorative flower at the bottom. So you just kind of ease it along until it's in a good place and level, and then put my magnet. And then all I did was I used gold embossing powder. So I just used my Versamark here and popped my piece in. There's my one of my that I've just finished. So I popped that in, I stamped it Versamark with the Versamark sticky adhesive, used some gold embossing powder to blend in with everything, and then use my heat tool. And I have quite a few videos on how to heat emboss, and I'll put some links to those for you. So I've now got my pretty little greeting, and I'm just going to use a couple of dimensionals, and I'm using the minis today because it's quite a small piece. And I'm going to pop it down, and I want to pop it down so that my pretty little flower has got the dark card behind it, so as it gives it a bit more of a pop. And then I have my cute butterflies. So I'm just going to use a tiny amount of liquid adhesive on the back of the gold one. You can just see that there. And I'm going to just offset it. So I'm just making sure that the top of his head lines up, but I've just offset so as we can see both parts of the butterfly there. And then I'm just going to get the tiniest little piece of the Stampin' Dimensional, and I'm going to pop it along its body there. And then take the backing off, and then I am just going to set it at a jaunty angle. Now, because I haven't got a piece of string going through that hole, I want to cover it. So I'm just going to pop it there so that that doesn't really show. And then maybe just flick this little gold piece up just to give it a bit of life. And there we have our card. Now I have another one here to show you. Now this was done with the Fern 3D embossing folder, and I used Starry Sky on this one, and you can see that it seems to work better with a darker card. It gives it more of a pop, but you can see that we've got two examples. Well, I do hope you've enjoyed this technique. I certainly have enjoyed sharing it with you. Now, all the details for this card will be on my blog, and if you look just below this video, you'll see a link to that, and it will take you exactly to this card so that you can see all the dimensions. If you have enjoyed this video, perhaps you'll go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you don't already subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. And any comments you have, I would love to read them. Well, thank you very much for spending time with me today. I do hope you've enjoyed it. Bye-bye for now.